coding. So I want us today to look at JavaScript modules, and then we look at JavaScript events, and then lastly we look at JavaScript DOM or document object module. So we look at the modules, JavaScript modules, and what is a module? Basically, a module is a file with a code. Alright, so modules allow you to break up your code into separate files so that it makes your code easier to manage and to maintain. Alright, so let us say you are developing a web application, and that web application has got different pages like the home page, the about page, the contact page, and all that. So instead of putting all your code in one file, you could create different files so that the code for home page will be in a different file, the code for the about page will be in a different file, and so on and so forth. So that concept of breaking up your code into separate files is what we refer to it as modules. Alright, so when you create a file, you are basically creating a module, and any code that you write in that file, let me admit another person here. Alright, Samuel, welcome to the class. We've just started on the concept of modules. So once you create a file, you have created a module, and that file is going to contain the code. So you can export the code in that file, and then you can be able to import it in another file and reuse the variables and the functions in another file. Alright, so we are going to create an example of that in Visual Studio so that we demonstrate the concept of modules. Alright, so we've said that when you create a file, you can be able to import a file. You can be able to export a file, and you can also be able to import the contents that are in another file and reuse it. So there are two types of export. There are two ways you can export your file, and one is called the named export, and the other one is called the default export, and these are shown in the syntax below. So we might say that we have a file with this code, and then we are going to export this code. So we are going to export this code the way we are using the export keyword, and here we are exporting the name variable. We are also exporting the age variable. Another way we can export code is using the default export. Here we have this line of code here, which is return export default message. Then after we have exported the code in one file, we can then go to another file B and import that code and reuse it in that other file. So this is how modules work. So let us take a practical example to demonstrate the concept of modules, how to create a module, and then how to export a module, and how to import a module. Alright, so to be able to do that, we're going to open Visual Studio, and I'm going to open a new window, and in this new window I'm going to open the file that we had created previously, and that file is, so I'm going to click on open the file, and the file is located on the desktop. Alright, so I go to desktop, I will see that this is our file that we've created before. So I'm going to click on it, and here it opens. So this is the code we have been using in our previous illustrations and practical classes. So what I'm going to do now, allow me to delete all this code. And I only want to leave these two variables x and y. So you can see variable x is assigned an object and variable y is assigned a number 10. So this can be called a module. This file can be called a module. Why? Is because it is a file which is a JavaScript file, and it contains some code. Alright, let me even add more code. Let me define one function that prints the value in y. So I'm going to add a function. And how do we declare a function? In our previous class we've said we declare a function using the function keyword, and then we give the function name display display text, and then here we are going to write the function logic or the function body. So here we are going to say console, just want to display some random text, console.log, this is a function in another module. So what this function does is that it only prints a simple text, the text that we've given in brackets here. So it prints, when we call this function, it should just simply print the text. So in this module or in this file, we have created these two variables and we have created this one function. Okay, so we can create another module or another file. So we are going to create another file here. Let's create a new file and we're going to make it a JavaScript file. So we create file 2.js and we're going to save it in the same location. We're going to save it in the same location on desktop, and then we are going to click create file, and here now we have a new file here. So now it's like we have two modules. The first module hello javascript.js, the second module file2.js. So in this file2, let us import the first file hello javascript so that we can be able to call the methods which are in this, the methods, the functions or the variables which are in this file. So I'm going to go in file2 and we will say that there are two ways in which we can import and export. So first of all, I'm going to export the contents which are in the first file, and to export we can use a named export or we can use default export. So first I'm going to use the named export like this one here. So in file 1, I'm going below here, I'm going to say export. Here what am I exporting? I want to export the variable x, and I also want to export the variable y. So I have exported these two variables. After exporting them, I can now import them in any other module. So I'm going to go to this module, the second module file2, and then import that. And how do we import? So we import in this manner. So we import the actual value. So we use the keyword import, and then in brackets the variables that we want to import from another file, and then we give the file location or the file name. So I'm going to the second file and write this code. So here I'm importing. You see, in the first file we have exported x and y. Since they have been exported, they are now visible in another file. So when you go to file 2, you have to import those variables. So I'm importing what has been exported. So I'm importing x and I'm importing y. From which file? From file2 dot js. All right, then hello, is someone asking a question? Samuel, you can mute unless you have a question to ask. So after we've imported the two variables, then I can now console, let us log them to see if they are visible in this second file. So I'm going to log and say the value of x is, then I'm going to refer to x, and also console.log the value of y is y. So let's run file2. How do we run it? We go to our terminal and we go to change the directory. So we do cd desktop, our files are on desktop. Then we want to do node and then the file name. So this time around we are running file2 .js, and we can see it's telling us cannot use import statement outside of a module. So let's see where the error is. So here we've exported. Let me uncomment this. Here I've made a mistake here. Instead of file2, we are importing these two variables from hello JavaScript file instead of file2. So let me make correction, hello JavaScript file. So let me save and then run again. So again it says cannot use import statement outside of Java, outside a module. Let me run this hello from let us troubleshoot this one here. So it is telling us wanting to load ES module set type module in the package.json. I see. So we don't have a JSON file, but in case we are, let me open the other previous project that I was creating so that I can be able to demonstrate the concept of export and import. So I'm going to open this React project, and here you can see we have one file here which is called, let me use about.js. So this is a file here with its own code, and then you can go to another file, for example the contact.js, and you can be able to import about. For example, here we have about.js, and then if you come to the app.js, which is another file, you can be able to import the about.js file from here. And once you import it from here, then you can be able to use all the code that is inside the about page. Any code that is here, you can be able to use it here. The reason as to why it's not running here is because we have not set up a JavaScript file, but we will be able to do that once we learn the concept of React on how to set up the ES module. But the key concept here is that you can have two files, and each of these files is termed as a module. And once you have two modules, you can be able to reuse the code which is in this module, for example, in another module by importing that module. And the way you import it is just using the keyword import, and then the variables the variables that you want to import, which are in another file, and then after you have imported them, you can use them as if they were declared in this file. But if you look at these two variables, you can see they are declared in another file, but because we have imported them, you can now be able to use them in this second file as if they are declared within this file. All right. All right. So we will create a JavaScript file once we get to this second slide here, and we will still repeat the concept of exporting and importing modules. Unless you have a question to ask, then you can ask before we proceed to the next concept of JavaScript events. Any question? Alright, if there's no question on this, let me pause this clip on JavaScript modules before we can look at the next concept.